May 17th, 1959. The Red Rooster Jazz Club, 138th Street and Lenox Avenue, Harlem. Duke Ellington's caravan fills the smoky air. 200 people packed into the hottest spot in Harlem on a Saturday night. Every eye in the room is watching one man. His name is James Big Jimmy Crawford, age 38, 6'4", 260 pounds of pure muscle. For 7 years he's been Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson's most feared enforcer, the man who collected debts, the man who delivered warnings, the man who made problems disappear. Tonight, Big Jimmy is wearing a brand new custom-tailored mohair suit, price tag $850. On his wrist, a gold Rolex Submariner worth $1,200. On his finger, a 3-carat diamond ring valued at $4,500. He's drinking Remy Martin Louis 13 cognac at $75 per bottle. He's already ordered 3. And he's handing out $100 bills like they're church flyers. "Drinks for everyone," Big Jimmy shouts, waving a thick stack of cash. "Tonight, we celebrate." The crowd roars. The bartender lines up glasses. The jazz band plays harder. But in the back corner booth, sitting in shadow, Bumpy Johnson watches. Silent, still, calculating. Because 3 weeks ago, Big Jimmy Crawford was broke. 3 weeks ago, he borrowed $40 from Bumpy to cover his rent. 3 weeks ago, he was wearing the same rumpled suit he'd owned for 5 years. And now? Now he's spending money like a man who just robbed Fort Knox. Except Big Jimmy didn't rob anything, and Bumpy Johnson knows exactly where that money came from. This is Harlem. This is the Untold Legend, Part 1. The Rise of Big Jimmy Crawford. To understand what happened on May 17th, 1959, you have to go back 7 years. October 3rd, 1952. A cold Saturday night in Harlem. Big Jimmy Crawford was 31 years old, fresh out of Sing Sing after serving 4 years for armed robbery. He had $23 to his name, no job, no prospects, no future. That night, he was standing outside Small's Paradise nightclub on 135th Street when 3 white men in expensive suits walked out. They were drunk, loud, stupid. "Look at this monkey," one of them said, pointing at Jimmy. "You want $1, boy? Dance for us." Jimmy didn't dance. What he did was break the man's jaw with 1 punch. The other 2 rushed him. Jimmy put one through a car window. The other ran. By the time Harlem police arrived, the 3 men were bleeding on the sidewalk, and Jimmy was calmly lighting a cigarette. 2 Irish cops from the 28th precinct started to cuff him, and then a voice cut through the night. "Officers, I'll handle this." It was Bumpy Johnson. He stepped out of a black Cadillac, wearing a gray pinstripe suit and a fedora. 46 years old, the undisputed godfather of Harlem. Bumpy handed each officer a $50 bill. They walked away without another word. Then Bumpy turned to Jimmy. "You just put 3 Genovese family associates in the hospital. You know what that means?" "I didn't know they were connected," Jimmy replied. "Doesn't matter. Vincent Gigante is going to want your head. You have 2 choices, run and get killed in a week, or work for me and I'll square it." Jimmy didn't hesitate. "I'm yours." Bumpy nodded. "Good. Because a man who can break jaws without flinching, I can use that." For the next 7 years, Big Jimmy Crawford became Bumpy Johnson's shadow. He was the enforcer, the problem solver, the man you saw right before you disappeared. In 1953, Jimmy collected $287,000 in outstanding debts from Harlem numbers runners. He never had to fire a shot. His reputation was enough. In 1954, when a crew from the Lucchese family tried to muscle in on Bumpy's territory on 125th Street, Jimmy broke the kneecaps of their crew chief, Tony Knuckles Romano, in front of 40 witnesses at the Savoy Ballroom. The Lucchese family never came back. In 1955, Jimmy personally protected Bumpy during a botched assassination attempt outside the Cotton Club. 2 Genovese shooters opened fire. Jimmy threw Bumpy to the ground, took a bullet in the shoulder, then chased down both shooters on foot. One lived long enough to talk, the other didn't. In 1956, Bumpy gave Jimmy a brownstone on Strivers Row, 142nd Street between Adam Clayton Powell Jr. Boulevard and Frederick Douglass Boulevard. Market value $38,000. Jimmy's wife, Loretta, cried when she saw it. By 1957, Big Jimmy Crawford was making $1,200 a month, triple what most Harlem working men earned. He had respect, status, protection. He was family. But there was one problem. Jimmy had a weakness: money, not making it, spending it. Part 2. The debt. By early 1958, Big Jimmy Crawford was drowning. He'd bought a second car, a 1957 Chrysler Imperial, cost $6,800. He'd bought Loretta a mink coat, cost $2,400. He'd invested $9,000 in a failing jazz club on Lenox Avenue that went bankrupt in 4 months. He'd loaned money to half of Harlem and never collected a dime. By March 1958, Jimmy was $18,000 in the hole. He couldn't tell Bumpy. Bumpy had given him everything: a house, a salary, respect, protection. Asking for a bailout would look weak, desperate, untrustworthy. So Jimmy kept quiet. He started skipping meals. He pawned Loretta's jewelry behind her back. He borrowed money from loan sharks at 20% interest per week. He was drowning, and someone noticed. Part 3. The offer. April 11th, 1958. Rao's Restaurant, 455 East 114th Street, East Harlem, Italian territory. A man in a black suit approached Big Jimmy on the street outside a barber shop. "Mr. Crawford, my boss would like a word, just a conversation, no trouble." Jimmy knew what this was. The Italians didn't invite Bumpy's men to lunch unless something was wrong or they wanted something. Inside Rao's, sitting at a corner table, was Anthony Fat Tony Salerno, underboss of the Genovese crime family, age 47, 300 pounds, cold eyes that had seen 1,000 men die. Next to him sat Thomas Tommy Ryan Eboli, Genovese capo, the man who ran East Harlem heroin distribution. Fat Tony waved Jimmy over. "Sit, Jimmy, relax, have some wine." Jimmy sat. He didn't drink. Fat Tony smiled. "I'll be direct. We know you're in debt. 18 grand, give or take. That's a lot of money for a man making $1,200 a month." Jimmy's jaw tightened. "I'll handle it." "I'm sure you will," Fat Tony said. "But here's the thing, Jimmy. We can make that debt disappear. Tonight. Plus 35,000 cash on top." Jimmy stared. "For what?" Tommy Ryan leaned in. "Information, Bumpy's operation, his stash houses, his distribution routes, his police contacts, his heroin suppliers. Everything." "You want me to betray Bumpy?" Jimmy said flatly. Fat Tony shrugged. "We want information. What we do with it is our business. You walk away clean, $53,000 total. Your debt paid, 35 grand in your pocket. You move to Chicago, Detroit, wherever. Start fresh. Bumpy never knows." Jimmy stood up. "I'm not a rat." "Sit down," Tommy Ryan said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "You think Bumpy doesn't know about your debt?" "He knows everything, Jimmy. Right now you're a liability. The second he decides you're a problem, you're done. We're offering you a way out." Jimmy hesitated. Fat Tony slid an envelope across the table. 5,000. Good faith. Take it, think about it. You have 1 week. Jimmy looked at the envelope. $5,000, enough to buy 2 months of breathing room. He took it. Part 4. The betrayal. For 6 days, Big Jimmy Crawford didn't sleep. He'd taken $5,000 from the Genovese family. That alone was a death sentence if Bumpy found out. But 35,000 more? That could change everything. He could pay off his debts, leave Harlem, start over in Philadelphia or Baltimore. Loretta could have the life she deserved. No more violence, no more looking over his shoulder. All he had to do was talk. On April 18, 1958, Jimmy made his decision. He met Tommy Ryan in a parking garage in the South Bronx. No witnesses, no recordings. "I'm in," Jimmy said, "but I want the money first, all it. Then I talk." Tommy Ryan shook his head. "Half now, half after we verify the information. 30 now, 5 after," Jimmy counted. They settled on $25,000 up front, 10,000 after verification. Jimmy talked for 2 hours. He gave them the location of Bumpy's primary heroin stash house, 463 West 144th Street, 3rd floor, red door, behind a false wall in the kitchen. He gave them the names of 4 NYPD officers on Bumpy's payroll: Sergeant Michael O'Reilly, Officer Patrick Donovan, Detective Frank Russo, Captain James Halloran. He gave them the schedule for Bumpy's weekly cash pickups from the numbers operation. Every Thursday at 2 a.m. a black Buick would arrive at the Teresa Hotel on 125th Street. The driver would carry a leather briefcase containing between $40,000 and $60,000 in small bills. He gave them the name of Bumpy's Corsican heroin connection, Jean-Pierre Moreau, operating out of Marseille through a front company in Montreal. He gave them everything. Tommy Ryan counted out $25,000 in $100 bills, handed them to Jimmy in a canvas bag. "We'll verify. If it's good, you get the rest in 2 weeks, then you disappear. If you stay in Harlem, we can't protect you." Jimmy nodded. "I'll be gone by Monday," but he lied. Part 5. The Fatal Mistake, April 19, 1958. Big Jimmy Crawford woke up with $25,000 under his bed. The smart move? Pay off his debts quietly, book 2 train tickets to Philadelphia, disappear before anyone noticed. But Jimmy didn't do that, because for 7 years Jimmy had been the muscle, the enforcer, the shadow. He'd watched other men wear expensive suits, drive new cars, drink top-shelf liquor. He'd made them rich, he'd protected them, he'd bled for them, and now, finally, he had money of his own. So on April 20th, Jimmy walked into Dapper Dan's tailor's on 125th Street and ordered 3 custom suits. Total cost, $1,200. On April 22nd, he bought the gold Rolex from a jeweler on Lenox Avenue. $1,200 cash. On April 25th, he bought the diamond ring from a fence in the Bronx. $4,500. On April 28th, he took Loretta to dinner at the Red Rooster and ordered champagne for the entire restaurant. Bill, $380. By early May, Big Jimmy had spent $14,000 of the $25,000, and he spent it all in Harlem, in public, in front of everyone, including Bumpy's eyes and ears. Part 6. Bumpy Notices, May 3, 1958. Bumpy Johnson sat in his office above the Palm Cafe on 125th Street. His lieutenant, Marcus Silk Henderson, stood across from him. "Boss, we got a problem," Marcus said. "Talk, Big Jimmy." "Last 3 weeks he's been spending money like he owns Chase Manhattan. New suits, new watch, new jewelry. He bought drinks for 100 people at the Rooster last Saturday. Bumpy lit a cigar. How much? At least 10, maybe 15 grand. And 3 weeks ago he was borrowing $40 for rent." Bumpy leaned back. He hit the numbers, didn't play. Inheritance? His mama died in 1952. No money. Loan? Not from anyone we know. And no shark in Harlem would front him 15 grand without us knowing. Bumpy exhaled smoke. "So where'd he get it?" Marcus hesitated. "There's talk. Some people saw him in East Harlem 2 weeks ago, near Rouse. The room went silent. Rouse was Genovese territory. Bumpy's men didn't go there unless they were invited, or unless they were meeting someone they shouldn't. Put eyes on him, Bumpy said. 24 hours. I want to know everywhere he goes, everyone he talks to, every dollar he spends. And if he's dirty. Bumpy's face didn't change. Then we'll have a conversation. Part 7, the investigation for the next 2 weeks. 4 of Bumpy's men followed Big Jimmy Crawford. They watched him eat breakfast at Wells' Supper Club every morning at 9 a.m. Steak and eggs, coffee, tip, $20. They watched him buy a new leather jacket at a shop on 8th Avenue, cost $350. They watched him take Loretta to see Billie Holiday at the Apollo Theater, front row seats, $120. They watched him gamble at an underground poker game on 147th Street. He lost $800 in one night and didn't flinch. But they also noticed something else. Every time Jimmy spent money, he looked nervous. His eyes darted. His hands shook when he counted bills. He checked over his shoulder constantly. This wasn't a man celebrating a windfall. This was a man spending money he knew he shouldn't have. On May 14th, one of Bumpy's watchers, a young hustler named Deshawn, followed Jimmy to a phone booth on Lenox Avenue. Jimmy made a call, spoke for 90 seconds, hung up, looked around, then walked away fast. Deshawn waited 5 minutes, then checked the phone booth. Jimmy had scribbled a number on the wall in pencil, 555 to 0, 147. Deshawn reported it to Bumpy. Bumpy made a call to Captain James Halloran, one of the NYPD officers on his payroll. Jimmy, I need you to run a number for me, 555 to 0, 147. I want to know who it belongs to. 6 hours later, Halloran called back. Boss, that number is registered to a business line at Rio's restaurant. Bumpy hung up, sat in silence for 10 minutes. Then he made his decision. Bring him in. Part 8, The Confrontation, May 17th, 1959, 11:47 p.m. The Red Rooster Jazz Club. Big Jimmy Crawford was drunk, happy, surrounded by people. He'd just ordered his 3rd bottle of Remy Martin, and then he felt a hand on his shoulder. It was Marcus Henderson. Jimmy. Bumpy wants to see you. Jimmy's smile faded. Now, Jimmy looked around. The music was loud, the crowd was laughing. But suddenly he noticed something. The room had gone quiet near his table. People were watching. Let me finish my drink, Jimmy said. Marcus shook his head. Now, Jimmy. They drove in silence. Jimmy in the back of a black Cadillac, Marcus in the front. 2 other men flanking Jimmy on either side. They didn't go to Bumpy's office. They drove north, past 155th Street, toward the Harlem River, to an abandoned warehouse on the waterfront. Jimmy's heart was pounding. The car stopped. The men got out. Jimmy was escorted inside. The warehouse was empty except for 2 chairs and a single hanging light bulb. Bumpy Johnson sat in one chair. The other was empty. Sit down, Jimmy, Bumpy said. Jimmy sat. Bumpy studied him for a long moment. Then he spoke. 7 years ago, I saved your life. You remember that? I remember. I gave you a job, a home, respect. I paid for your wife's surgery when she got sick. I stood up for you when the Italians wanted you dead. I made you family. I know, Bumpy. I know. So tell me, Jimmy, where'd you get the money? Jimmy's throat went dry. What money? Bumpy didn't raise his voice. 3 weeks ago you borrowed $40 from me for rent. Now you're wearing a $1,200 watch and buying drinks for half of Harlem. So I'll ask you again, where'd you get the money? Jimmy swallowed. I got lucky. Poker game in the Bronx. Lie, Bumpy said calmly. Try again. I swear, Bumpy, You met with Tommy Ryan, Bumpy interrupted. April 18th, parking garage, South Bronx. You talked for 2 hours. He gave you a bag. You think I don't have eyes everywhere? Jimmy's face went pale. Bumpy leaned forward. What did you give them, Jimmy? Silence. What did you give them? Jimmy's voice cracked. They knew about my debt. They said you'd kill me if you found out. They offered me a way out. What did you give them? Information, locations, names, schedules. Bumpy's expression didn't change. How much? 25,000, another 10 after they verified. And you spent it in Harlem. Jimmy nodded, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry, Bumpy. I'm sorry, I was drowning. I didn't know what to do. You took their money, Bumpy said quietly, and then you spent it in my city, in front of my people, like I wouldn't notice, like I wouldn't care. I was going to leave, I swear. I wanted to enjoy it for a few days. Bumpy stood up. You know what the Italians did with your information? Jimmy shook his head. They raided my stash house on 144th Street, but I'd already moved everything, because Marcus told me you were acting strange 2 weeks ago. So I moved 40 kilos of heroin to a different location. The Italians found nothing. Jimmy's eyes widened. Your cop names? I fed them bad information through those cops for the last 10 days. The Italians think I'm moving product through routes I abandoned in 1955. Bumpy, your Thursday pickup schedule? I changed it to Tuesdays. The Italians sent 6 men to ambush a car that never showed up. Jimmy was sobbing now. Bumpy leaned down, his face inches from Jimmy's. You betrayed me for $25,000, and then you spent it in Harlem, where every bartender, every hustler, every street corner preacher reports to me. You thought you were smart. You thought you could play both sides. Bumpy straightened up. You were family, Jimmy, and family is everything. But you chose money over loyalty, and in Harlem, that's a death sentence. Part 9, the price, May 18th, 1959. 4:37 a.m. The Harlem River waterfront. Big Jimmy Crawford's body was found floating near the 155th Street Bridge. Single gunshot wound to the back of the head. Clean, professional, execution style. His pockets were empty except for one thing, a single $100 bill with a note pinned to it. This is what $35,000 buys you in Harlem. Nothing. The police investigated for 3 days. No witnesses, no suspects, no arrests. The Genovese family got the message. They never attempted another recruitment in Harlem. And every bartender, every hustler, every enforcer in Harlem learned a lesson that day. You can betray Bumpy Johnson. You can take the money. You can even run. But if you spend that money in Harlem, you're already dead. Epilogue. Loretta Crawford left Harlem 1 week after her husband's funeral. She moved to Philadelphia with their 2 children. Bumpy sent her $5,000 and a note. Your husband made a mistake. You and your children didn't. This is for them. The brownstone on Strivers Row was sold. The proceeds went to Loretta. The Italians never got their $10,000 second payment. Tommy Ryan tried to collect information from another source. That source disappeared 3 days later. Bumpy Johnson lived another 9 years. He died of a heart attack in 1968 while eating dinner at Wells Restaurant. He was 62 years old. But the legend of Big Jimmy Crawford lived on. For decades, anyone in Harlem who even thought about betrayal heard the same warning, remember Big Jimmy. He spent the money where he shouldn't have. And Harlem doesn't forget. This is Harlem. This is the code. This is the untold legend.